Hello, welcome to Spectrum News at 9. My name is Xavier Robert, coming to you live from Uyo, the capital city of Akwa Ibom. Let's take a look at the headlines. President Buhari set to flag a third oil field in northern Nigeria. NYSC extends strike ultimatum by 2 weeks. Plus, US backs special tribunal on Russia aggression against Ukraine. The details of these stories and more in a moment. First in the news tonight, President Muhammadu Buhari is set to flag up the third oil field in northern Nigeria. This was contained in a public announcement by the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation Limited and the Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority. The oil field is located in N14bn at the headquarters of Obi local government area of Nasarawa State. According to reports, it is the second oil field in the north central region. The first was the Ibaji oil field in Kogi State. In the history of Nigeria's exploration, the N14bn oil field is the third in northern Nigeria. The first was Kolomani, located in the Bauchi-Gombe axis. Meanwhile, President Buhari today said Nigeria would experience effective governance under the administration of the President-elect Bola Tinubu. He noted that Tinubu had the political pedigree and experience to achieve this by May 29, when he would take over the leadership of the country. The president said this in a statement issued today by his special advisor on media and publicity, Femi Adesina. According to him, his political pedigree from the 90s, active role in party politics, being elected senator and later governor of Lagos State, and diligent involvement in structure of leadership at the executive and legislative levels for many years will serve as asset for good and effective governance. Away from that now, Minister of Youth and Sports Development Sunday Dare says the federal government will invest 14 billion naira to improve the welfare of youth corps members and NYSC staff. Dare said this today in Abuja at the opening ceremony of the 2023 National Youth Service Corps NYSC Annual Management Conference. The conference has optimizing the operations of NYSC at 50 for national development as its theme. According to him, the document, which contains other reforms proposals, has been submitted to President Muhammadu Buhari and is awaiting his assent. In the meantime, federal government is to build 3 integrated villages to resettle 20,000 Nigerian refugees from neighboring countries of Chad, Cameroon, and Niger. Governor Babagana Zulum of Borno made the disclosure while chairing a technical committee meeting in Abuja today. Zulum, who is also the Vice Chairman, Presidential Committee on Repatriation, Return and Resettlement of Refugees and Management of Repentant Boko Haram members, said that at least 20,000 persons took refuge in neighboring countries. He said that President Buhari had approved the release of 15 billion naira to the committee, with the Borno government handling the construction of the villages. The aim, the governor said, was towards the resettlement of the returnees from the neighboring countries. Meanwhile, the federal government has launched the Federal Public Service Entrepreneurship Program FPSEP to prepare workers for life after retirement in Abuja. The head of civil service of the Federation, Dr. Folashade San, said her dream was for the emergence of a skillful and more productive workforce that would contribute meaningfully to the development of the country as employees as well as employers of labor within the provisions of extant rules. Esan, who was represented by the Permanent Secretary of the Service Welfare Office, Ngozi Omudiwe, tasked civil servants to plug the knowledge garnered from their training at FPSEP into agriculture and other business ventures that would enable them create multiple sources of income for self-sustenance while in service and after exiting the service. According to her, the Public Service Entrepreneurship Program was developed out of the need to pay greater attention to the welfare of the public servants who constituted the administrative machinery for implementing government policies and programs. Moving now to the legislature, where Senate has extended the implementation of the capital component of the 2022 budget from March 31 to June 30, 2023. The extension followed a request by President Muhammadu Buhari for the Senate to amend the time for implementation of the capital component of the 2022 Appropriation Act moved at plenary by the Senate leader, Senator Ibrahim Gobe, APC Sokoto East. The upper chamber suspended relevant standing rules to enable it read the bill for the first, second, and third time. Gobe explained that the extension will enable the government implement key projects in the capital components of the 2022 budget and allow for the completion of ongoing projects critical to the current administration. So on legislative matters now, where the House of Representatives has asked the federal government to immortalize late elder statesman Lieutenant General Oladipo Dia. The House made the resolution today following a motion from the member representing Ijebu Ode, Odobolu Ijebu Northeast Federal Constituency, Kolabo Osunsanya. The lower chamber held a moment of silence in honor and stated that a delegation would be sent to visit his family in Lagos. Dia's death was announced in a statement by his son, Prince Oyesini Lola Dia, on Sunday morning. The late general, who was the chief of staff under the late head of state, General Sani Abacha, died barely a week before he turned 79. Born on April 3, 1944 at Odobolu in Ogun State, he joined the Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna, and fought during the Nigerian Civil War. Dia was appointed Chief of General Staff, CGS, in 1993 and Vice Chairman of the Provisional Ruling Council in 1994. He was second in command and the de facto Vice President of Nigeria under Abacha from 1994 as the CGS. Meanwhile, House of Representatives will on April 11, 2023, grill ministers and other heads of ministries, departments and agencies of the federal government, as well as oil companies and banks over the alleged illegal sale of 48 million barrels of crude oil valued at $2.4 billion. The committee, in a notice to the invitees, also demanded memoranda from whistleblowers whose alarm had led to the recovery of public funds from corrupt individuals and organizations. The committee invited 100 individuals, organizations, and groups, including the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited, Group Chief Executive Officer, NNPCL, Federal Ministry of Finance, Budget and National Planning, Attorney General of the Federation, Director of Public Prosecutions of the Federation, Central Bank of Nigeria, Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, Chief Executive, NUPRC, former Chairman, Presidential Committee on Recovery of Missing Crude Oil, former Director General DSS Lawal Musa Daura, Department of State Services, Nigeria Police Force, Interpol National Central Bureau, Nigeria, among others. Meanwhile, the chairman of the committee, Mark Wheeler, disclosed that the panel had not been officially inaugurated, as Speaker of the House, Femi Gbajabiamila, was unavoidably absent to declare the hearing open, adding that the inauguration of the committee will hold on April 11. To the judiciary now, where the Federal High Court in Abuja today affirmed Victor Oye as the lawful and legitimate national chairman of the All Progressives Grand Alliance APGA. The court kicked out Edozie Njoku, who had been laying claims to the highest office in the political party. Justice James Omotosho, in a judgment, held that by the judgments of the Federal High Court, Court of Appeal and later Supreme Court, it was clear that Victor Oye is the legitimate national chairman of the party. Justice Omotosho held that Edozie Njoku was a meddlesome interloper in the suit, seeking to reap where he did not sow. The court condemned the action of the legal practitioner CN Nwagu for deliberately misleading the court and causing unnecessary confusion that wasted the judicial time of the court. Still from the judiciary now, the Governorship and House of Assembly Election Petition Tribunal sitting in Abakaliki, Ebonyi State, has granted an ex parte order for the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) to allow Professor Bernard Odo and Ifeanyi Chukwuma Odi to inspect all sensitive electoral materials that led to the declaration of Francis Nwifuru as a winner. Professor Odo is the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Grand Alliance APGA. Ifeanyi Chukwuma Odi is the candidate of the People's Democratic Party PDP, while Francis Nwifuru is the candidate of the ruling All Progressives Congress APC. Recall that Nwifuru polled a total of 199,131 votes to defeat Odi, who scored 80,191 votes to come second, while Odo got 52,189 votes to come third in the just concluded governorship election that took place in the 13 local government areas of Ebonyi State. Meanwhile, the state INEC returning officer, Professor Charles Igwe, who declared Nwifuru the governor-elect, said he polled the highest number from the total votes cast. In the meantime, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has dismissed a certificate forgery case filed by the Transparency Advocacy for Development Initiative (TADI) against the Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Sylvia. A court, in a copy of its ruling dated March 8, 2023, dismissed the matter following an application by the lawyer to the plaintiff, Edward Onaga, seeking the withdrawal of the case. But the minister's lawyer, John Ebokpo, told the court that the application to withdraw the suit was based on the realization that the case was baseless, having been adequately defended by Sylvia. Ebokpo asked the court to reject the prayer of the plaintiff that the matter be withdrawn and instead make an order dismissing the case. Meanwhile, the Federal High Court sitting in Lagos has fixed April 20, 2023 to rule on an application filed by Kogi State seeking to vacate an interim order of the court freezing 14 properties linked to the state governor. Justice Nicholas Owebo fixed the date today after taking submissions from the Kogi State Government's Counsel, Abdul Wahab Mohammed San, and the Counsel to the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, Rotimi Oyedepo San. It would be recalled that on February 22, the court had granted the interim forfeiture order following an ex parte motion to confiscate 14 property and firms in Lagos, Abuja, and the United Arab Emirates, UAE, as well as 400 million naira recovered from one Aminu Falala. According to reports, when the matter came up today, the counsel to Kogi State told the court that he had an application dated March 9, 2023, seeking to vacate the order of the court made on February 22. Mohammed, while moving the application, stated that about the third quarter of 2021, EFCC approached the court to freeze Kogi State's 20 billion naira salary bailout loan that was allegedly hidden in Sterling Bank. Away from that now, the leadership of the Nigeria Labour Congress (NLC) and Trade Union Congress (TUC) have extended their strike ultimatum it earlier issued the federal government for 2 weeks, following consultations with their affiliate unions over the cash crunch policy. The decision was announced today after a meeting with the National Executive Council members Recall that the NLC had issued an ultimatum to go on strike beginning Wednesday. Nationwide, part of which was a plan to picket the various branches of the Central Bank of Nigeria (CBN). It is, however, not clear whether a meeting summoned by the Minister of Labour and Employment, Chris Ngige, between the leadership of the NLC and CBN prompted the decision to extend the ultimatum for an additional 2 weeks. In another development, the National Population Commission has said it had put up measures to guard against all forms of malpractices ahead of the forthcoming population and housing census. The Commission also stressed that citizens living away from their states of origin do not need to travel to home for the purpose of the exercise. It said people would be enumerated at their places of residence. The spokesperson for the Commission, Isiaka Yahaya, said this in an interview with newsmen. Yahaya added that the Commission had not finished the recruitment process for enumerators. And politics. The National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party (PDP) has appointed Omar Damagum to oversee the affairs of the party in acting capacity. National Publicity Secretary of the PDP, Debo Ologunagba, announced this at a press conference today at the party's secretariat. Damagum will replace Iyorchia Ayu as the national chairman of the party. Still in politics now, former Imo State Governor Emeka Ihedioha has withdrawn from the People's Democratic Party (PDP's) governorship primary in the southeast state. The former governor was screened and cleared a few days ago by the PDP to contest the party's primary ahead of the November 11 governorship election in Imo State. However, in a letter dated March 27, 2023, Ihedioha informed the PDP leadership of his personal sacrifice for a consensus candidate by the party. Recall that in January 2020, the Supreme Court sacked Ihedioha as the governor of Imo State after barely 7 months in office. The 7-man panel, led by Chief Justice Tanko Mohammed, unanimously declared Hope Uzodimma of the All Progressives Congress (APC) as the winner of the March 19, 2019 governorship election in the state. The appellant, Uzodimma, had contended that he scored the highest number of votes in the election, but the Independent National Electoral Commission (INEC) returned Ihedioha as the governor of the state. Meanwhile, the chief whip of the Senate and senator representing Abia North, Orji Uzor Kalu, today met with President Muhammadu Buhari at the presidential villa, where he intimated him of his ambition to become Senate President in the 10th Assembly. He, however, revealed that the President did not give him an automatic endorsement, but exhibited a favorable disposition to his ambition to become the President of the Senate. Kalu also said he would not want to rock the boat if there is vested interest in the leadership of the Senate, but would not be averse to accepting the position if it is zoned to the south. Recall that Kalu had jolted Nigerians when he recently declared that it was his turn to become Senate President shortly after he got re-elected from his constituency. He said he was optimistic that when elected to preside over the Senate, he would promote peace among its rank and file. In a separate development, South-South Solidarity Group has claimed that among the entire geopolitical zones of the country, the region remains very marginalized. Coordinator of the group, Ikpen Ilefa, in an interview in Calabar, maintained that since the Second Republic of President Shehu Shagari, the zone which had late Joseph Wayas as Senate President has not occupied that position anymore. The group has now asked authorities to zone the Senate presidency to the South-South in the next dispensation in the interest of equity. On electoral matters now, the Nigeria Police Force has said it recorded a total of 489 major electoral infractions during the February 25 presidential and March 18 governorship polls. The Inspector General of Police, Usman Al-Khalibaba, made the disclosure during a meeting with senior police officers at the Goodluck Jonathan Peacekeeping Center Force Headquarters, Abuja. At the meeting were Deputy Inspectors General of Police, Assistant Inspectors General of Police, Commissioners of Police and other members of the force management team. While noting that the culprits will be prosecuted, Baba said the police force will effectively collaborate with the leadership of the Independent National Electoral Commission in ensuring that all the electoral offenders are expeditiously and transparently prosecuted, not only in the interest of criminal justice delivery, but in furtherance of their vision to sanitize the nation's democratic space.
Nobody, regardless of political persuasion, background, or influence, should place his or her personal interests above national interests. Accordingly, while admonishing all political actors and their followers to submit to democratic norms, peaceful means, and legal procedure in advancing their interests or seeking redress for their political concerns, I must firmly warn that the Nigeria Police and other security agencies shall not tolerate the resort to incitement or any act designed to threaten our national security. They are therefore advised in the strongest possible terms to henceforth draw back on current attempts to engender tension within the national security space to avoid attracting appropriate law enforcement response. In regard to this, feedbacks so far received across the 36 states of the Federation and the FCT indicates that...
Still to come in the news. Sam Bankman Fried accused of Chinese bribing. Stay with us.
Business exists only to meet the needs of the people, but there's an extra advantage if your product and services are pitched on a platform that gives you the added advantage over your competitors. For your desired return on investment and so much more, advertise on Spectrum Television, on StarTimes DTH Channel 421 and on free-to-air with a frequency of 12733. Spectrum Television, broadening your horizon.
Every day, we bring you up-to-date information on topical issues affecting the common Nigerian.
From issues on politics,
hello Nigerians, I remain committed.
Security,
education, health,
lifestyle, and so much more. Join Janice Kobum and Uyai Anyeken
every weekday from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Rise and Shine Daily, exclusive on Spectrum Television.
The Nigerian police, which is the only one allowed by grossly abused. Our governors have to share police powers with the president as stipulated by the constitution. We do not have a federal government police force. We have the Nigerian police force, which shall be administered, organized, and supervised by the Nigerian police force.
No, my lord, I want to say something. I want to say something here. Perhaps it might also enlarge the scope of people who should be invited here for examination. My lord, if we cannot find those who literally murdered Abiola, who are those people who could be said to be the beneficiaries of the death of Abiola?
Rogers has linked you with some of the killings he did.
He never did.
He linked you with the attempted murder of Ibro.
He did not.
My lord, the Matters Council is leading the evidence in our matters.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord, but you can't be talking about cases which are in court.
Is this an adversary proceeding?
It's not, my lord. These cases are in court, my lord. I'm just reminding your lordship.
My lord, sorry, my lord, I think I'll be in consequence.
Legally Speaking, a program that deals with legal issues and questions we face as citizens of this amazing country, Nigeria. Legally Speaking. Join us every
Friday from 5 p.m. to 6 p.m.
for Legally Speaking.
One truth not often told is about the transformation that Africa has undergone in recent decades. Africa is shaping its own destiny and should be referred to as the African opportunity. On Spotlight Africa, we paint the African picture the African way, laced with truth, detail, and the color of the African continent. Join Uyai Anyekan every Tuesday and Thursdays at 4:30 p.m. Spotlight Africa, telling the African story.
Many thanks for staying tuned. Move on now to Africa, where Chadian President Mohamed Idris has pardoned 259 people out of the 262 jailed in December during deadly confrontations between police and protesters in the capital, N'Djamena. Reports say they had been convicted for offences including unauthorized assembly, destruction of property, arson, violence and assault during the clashes in which 73 people died. Meanwhile, the presidential pardon comes days after 380 rebels sentenced to life imprisonment for the death of former ruler Idris Deby, the current president's father, received the peace gesture. The late Idris Deby, who ruled the country for 30 years, died during an operation against rebels in 2021. So in Africa, Kenya's President William Ruto has condemned Monday's opposition protests that turned violent and led to the damage of property, including the invasion of a farm belonging to former President Uhuru Kenyatta's family. Addressing Kenyans living in Berlin, President Ruto said he would not allow impunity to be part of the country's discourse. He vowed to ensure security for all Kenyans and business by giving the police the independence of enforcing law and order in the country. According to reports, a church and mosque in Nairobi were destroyed by unknown assailants on Monday night after protesters engaged police in running battles. Meanwhile, religious leaders have condemned Monday's attack, urging politicians to consider dialogue and preach peace. In a related development, the African Union has appealed for calm and called for dialogue following opposition protests in Kenya that have turned violent and left 3 people dead since last week. Opposition leader Raila Odinga called for demonstrations to protest against the high cost of living and what he calls electoral justice after last year's election. In a statement, AU chairperson Musa Faki Mohammed urged stakeholders to exercise calm and engage in dialogue to address any differences. He said the conduct of elections last year was successful and the outcome confirmed by the Supreme Court. Meanwhile, Kenyan religious leaders have also called for unconditional talks between President William Ruto and Odinga. In the meantime, now a Danish-owned ship has been hijacked by pirates in the Gulf of Guinea off the coast of Congo-Brazzaville. The shipping company said the 16 crew members had sought refuge in a safe room on board the Monjasa Reformer. According to reports, armed men began attacking the Liberian-flagged oil and chemical tanker when it was more than 100 kilometers west of Port Point Nord. Meanwhile, foreign naval ships have increased patrols over the last 2 years following a spate of pirate attacks. It will be recalled that Denmark, which is a key player in the global shipping industry, deployed a frigate to the Gulf of Guinea in 2021. It was withdrawn last year following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Meanwhile, drinking water supplies are being cut off at night in cities across Tunisia in a bid to maintain reserves in the country. A severe drought is being blamed for the shortage, along with poor water management and faulty infrastructure. Reports say in some areas as much as 50% of water is lost before reaching the tap. Correspondents say the decision to limit water supplies will add to existing public anger about inflation and inadequate public services. Elsewhere, a security officer in Guinea has been sentenced to 10 years in prison for the murder of a 19-year-old Moriba Kamara shot dead Thiano Mamadou Diallo during opposition coalition protests last June. The prosecution had sought a longer sentence of 25 years in jail for Kamara, and the victim's brother reportedly said the court's lesser sentence of 10 years was too light for such a crime. Since 2021, Guinea has been governed by military leaders who pushed out ex-president Alpha Condé in a coup. In August last year, the junta banned the influential FNDC opposition coalition, which had led earlier protests against Condé and also against the new military rulers. Away from that, a prominent Ethiopian composer who was also a nun has died in Jerusalem, where she had lived reclusively in an Ethiopian monastery for nearly 40 years. Imahoi Segwe Mariam Jebro was 99. Often referred to as the Piano Queen, she was ordained as a nun aged 21 and was among Ethiopia's first classical pianists. According to reports, her first record was released in the mid-1960s when Ethiopia had a thriving jazz and classical music scene. Imahoi Segwe Mariam achieved global fame in 2006 when her music featured in albums of Ethiopian music from previous decades. The Homeless Wanderer and The Madman's Laughter are among her well-known compositions. On the foreign scene now, the United States has thrown its support behind calls for a special tribunal to prosecute Russia for the crime of aggression against Ukraine, an idea promoted by the European Union. The International Criminal Court has issued an arrest warrant for President Vladimir Putin over war crimes and considers aggression a crime, but it has no jurisdiction over Russia, which is not party to the Hague Tribunal. A State Department spokesperson said today that the United States supported a special tribunal on the crime of aggression over Russia's February 2022 invasion of its neighbor. So on the foreign scene now, German Defense Ministry says the first shipment of Leopard 2 tanks from Germany has been sent to Ukraine. Reports say 18 cutting-edge main battle tanks were delivered after Ukrainian crews were trained to use them. Also, Ukraine Challenger 2 tanks from the UK have also arrived. Meanwhile, Germany's Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said he was sure the tanks could make a decisive contribution on the front lines of the war. Recall that Ukraine has been calling for more modern vehicles and weapon systems for months to help fight Russia's invasion. Meanwhile, the UK government raised the terror threat level in Northern Ireland to severe today, ahead of an expected visit by US President Joe Biden to mark the 25th anniversary of a landmark peace accord. According to Northern Ireland Secretary Chris Heaton Harris, the domestic spy agency MI5 M15 judged that the risk of an attack had gone from substantial to severe, meaning an incident is judged highly likely. Northern Ireland saw 3 decades of sectarian conflict over British rule, known as the Troubles, that claimed some 3,500 lives, but the province stands transformed since the Good Friday Agreement was adopted on April 10, 1998. In the meantime, an Afghan man wielding a large knife killed 2 Portuguese women and injured several others at an Ismaili Muslim center in Lisbon, the Portugal capital. Reports say the Portuguese authorities have commenced an investigation into the stabbing attack as a possible terror act. The women were Portuguese staff members at the center, Ismaili community leader Nazim Ahmed revealed. Local Afghan community representatives and Portuguese authorities described the man as a refugee from Afghanistan who was receiving help from the Ismaili community. Elsewhere, Myanmar's junta-stacked election commission today announced Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy party would be dissolved for failing to re-register under a tough new military-drafted electoral law. According to reports, the military justified its February 2021 coup with unsubstantiated claims of widespread fraud in 2020 elections won by the NLD, ending a 10-year democratic experiment and plunging the country into turmoil. In January, it gave political parties 2 months to re-register under a strict new electoral law written by the military ahead of fresh polls it has promised to hold, but which its opponents say will be neither free nor fair. Still on the foreign scene, Ukrainian authorities say Russian rocket attack has damaged a kindergarten and a school in the city of Kramatorsk in eastern Ukraine's Donetsk region. In a Telegram post, the Kramatorsk City Council said no casualties were recorded, but 6 houses and a non-residential building were also damaged. The attack came after Russian missile strikes on nearby Sloviansk, which killed at least 2 people. Meanwhile, Pavlo Kyrylenko, the head of the Donetsk Regional Military Administration, said the number of people injured in Sloviansk is 28. It's now time for the latest business and stock market stories. We have Blyden Ukem standing by.
Thank you, Xavier Roberts. Good evening. It is business news. My name is Blyden Ukem. Sam Bankman-Fried, founder of failed crypto firm FTX, has been accused of bribing at least 1 Chinese officer. In new charges unveiled in the US, officials accuse the entrepreneur of authorizing a bribe of at least $40 million to try to gain access to trading accounts frozen by Chinese authorities. The allegation add to the fraud case filed last year after FTX collapse. Mr. Bankman-Fried pleaded not guilty to those claims earlier this year. However, he is currently under house arrest at his parents' home in California while awaiting trial. The report says Mr. Bankman-Fried authorized the bribe after Chinese authorities froze accounts holding roughly $1 billion worth of cryptocurrency that belonged to his trading firm, Alameda Research. Still in the news, 3 gambling firms owned by William Hills are to pay penalties of £19.2 million for failing to protect consumers and weak anti-money laundering controls. The record penalty comes after the Gambling Commission found new customers were able to bet large sums over short periods without proper checks. In one case, a customer was allowed to open a new account and spend £23,000 in 20 minutes without any checks. The Commission seriously considered suspending William Hill's license. It found several failures to guard against possible money laundering, with customers allowed to deposit large amounts without the business conducting appropriate checks. According to reports, one person was able to spend and lose £70,134 in 1 month, while another deposited £73,535 and lost £14,068 in 4 months. In Nigeria, Cadbury Nigeria reported its total turnover for the financial year of 2022 grew by 30.3%, with profit after tax following closely after growing by 29.6%. In the company's annual report and financial statements for the year ended December 31, 2022, it was released on Tuesday that Cadbury posted 55.21 billion naira. This is 12.84 billion naira difference when compared to the 42.39 billion naira revenue Cadbury Nigeria generated in the preceding year, following a 32.3% increase in the cost of sales. Cadbury, the chocolate producer, closed last year with gross profits of 7.72 billion naira, improving on the 6.47 billion naira profit grossed the year before. It's time for the Nigerian stock market report. At the end of today's trading session on the Nigerian Stock Exchange, the benchmark All-Share Index declined 626.14 basis points to close at 53,124.63 points. The current market capitalization of the Nigerian Stock Exchange is 28.9 trillion naira. 102 listed equities participated in trading, ending with 16 gainers and 10 losers. PZ Cushion's Nigeria led the gainers with 9.62% share price appreciation, closing at 11 naira 40 kobo per share. On the losing side, Champs came at last with an end-of-day price appreciation of 8% at 23 kobo per share. Transcorp Nigeria recorded the highest volume of 61.5 million traded shares. This is all on business news. I'm back to Xavier Robert for the rest of the news.
Many thanks, Leiden. Still to come in the news. Lionel Messi's friend in race to take over from Ancelotti as Real Madrid manager. Do stay with us. Many thanks for staying tuned. Now in health, Nigeria is set to tackle diphtheria with €150,000 gift from the European Union. In a statement issued by the delegation of the European Union to Nigeria and the Economic Community of West African States, the allocation was in response to the significant increase in diphtheria cases recorded since the beginning of 2023 in Nigeria. Reports say the humanitarian fund will assist the most affected communities, Kano, Katsina, Lagos and Osun states. Recall that on January 20, 2023, the Nigerian Center for Disease Control and Prevention officially declared an outbreak of diphtheria in Kano and Lagos states after several suspected cases appeared a month earlier. Still in health, Bauchi State has reportedly recorded 7,806 cases of tuberculosis. Mohammed said this at a news conference in Bauchi. Mohammed, who was represented by the Commissioner for Health, Sabiu Walabe, at the news conference, stated that the figure was an increase of 2,000, in collaboration with implementing partners such as Breakthrough Action Nigeria, was conducting active case findings across Bauchi State. He, however, noted that the 2023 World Tuberculosis Day would be celebrated. In sports now, Marcelo Gallardo, a friend of PSG ace Lionel Messi, is reportedly in contention to take over at Real Madrid in the event of manager Carlo Ancelotti's departure. Ancelotti is said to be heading to Brazil to become their next head coach following the resignation of Tite last December. The Italian's contract at the Santiago Bernabeu expires at the end of next season, but there is a strong chance that he will leave Real Madrid. They confirmed that the former Chelsea, AC Milan and Everton boss has emerged as the favorite to take over from boss Ramon Menezes at the helm. They take on debutants Cameroon in the second game of the NCF T20 tournament in Lagos. The female Yellow Greens began their campaign with 6 wickets. They could only manage 65 runs for the loss of 9 wickets in 19 overs, leaving Nigeria to do the bare minimum to win the game. Nigeria initially struggled with the batting in the second innings by the turnaround and is confident that his team will improve with every game in the tournament. Philly Sports Arsenal player Bukayo Saka is set to sign a new long-term contract with the football club, while his present contract was due to expire and become the Ghana's highest-paid player. Reports revealed Saka, who earns a weekly wage of £70,000 per week, is on the verge of signing a contract worth a Polar Music Prize, widely regarded as industry's equivalent of a Nobel Prize, have just been announced. According to reports, the founder of Island Records, Chris Blackwell, who is credited with bringing Ghanaian composer Alvo Part, who last year regained the title of the most performed living composer. The award celebrates the 3 laureates for their achievements in music. It is the 3rd time in the history of the award that 3 laureates have won. Sir Paul McCartney. Still on entertainment, our Nigerian international music stars Wizkid and Tems have both won an award at the 2023 iHeart Radio Awards, Fireboy and Burna Boy to take home the award. Tems, who is set to have won the Best Hip-Hop Song for her contributions to Future's Wait For You, was also nominated in Los Angeles, California, and it was hosted by Lenny Kravitz. And lastly, on entertainment tonight, Ghanaian singer of Island Records and Estonian composer Alvo Part. According to the organizers of the Sweden's Polar Music Prize, Kicho, who sings in native, Fon and Yoruba languages as well as in French and English, is one of the greatest singers and songwriters in international music. The music award organizers said that the laureates will receive their 600,000 kroner, that is equivalent to $58,000 prize, at the ceremony in Stockholm on May 23. That's all we have for you at this time. Do ensure to follow us. And so, Robert, wishing you a terrific night rest. Bye-bye for now.